In today's lesson, we'll be learning about exponent laws. We all know that this would be considered an exponent. The x would be considered the base, and the number in front of the base would be considered a coefficient. We're first going to go over the product rule. When you're multiplying exponents with the same base, they both have a base of x, all you do is add the exponents, as you can see here. Next, we're going to talk about the quotient rule. When you're dividing exponents with the same base, so the base here is x, all you do is subtract the exponents. Down here I have the exact same thing. When you're dividing exponents with the same base, a base of x, all you do is subtract the exponents. In our first example, we want to simplify x to the power of 3 multiplied by x to the power of 4. Let's rewrite this. You'll notice that instead of using a multiplication sign, I'm using a dot. This is to avoid confusion between the variables and the operation. Now, when you're multiplying exponents with the same base, you add the exponents. So you actually have x to the power of 3 plus 4, which is the same thing as x to the power of 7. In our second example, we want to simplify 2x to the power of 2 multiplied by 4x to the power of 3. This question is a little bit different since we have coefficients. We have a coefficient of 2 and a coefficient of 4. Since it's multiplication, you do exactly that. You multiply these coefficients. 2 times 4 is 8. Next, we have x to the power of 2 multiplied by x to the power of 3. Again, when you're multiplying exponents with the same base, all you do is add the exponents. So that's x to the power of 2 plus 3, which is the exact same thing as x to the power of 5. In our third example, we want to simplify negative 3x to the power of 2 multiplied by 5x to the power of 3. So I'm going to rewrite the question. First, let's take a look at the coefficients. We have a coefficient of negative 3 and a coefficient of positive 5. We are multiplying these coefficients together. So negative 3 multiplied by 5 is negative 15. Next, we have x to the power of 2 multiplied by x to the power of 3. So when you're multiplying exponents with the same base, the base of x, you just add the exponents. So I have x to the power of 2 plus 3. So that simplifies to negative 15x to the power of 5. Now, in our fourth example, we want to simplify negative 5x to the power of 4 multiplied by 6x to the power of 2. So let's begin by rewriting our question. Let's first take a look at the coefficients. I have a coefficient of negative 5 and a coefficient of positive 6. Remember, we are multiplying. So negative 5 multiplied by 6 is negative 30. Next, you have x to the power of 4 multiplied by x to the power of 2. When you're multiplying exponents with the same base, you add the exponents. The base for both of these exponents are x, so you can just add the exponents. So I have x to the power of 4 plus 2, and that simplifies to negative 30x to the power of 6. In our next set of examples, we're going to take a look at the quotient rule. So in our first example, we want to simplify x to the power of 5 divided by x to the power of 3. So I'm going to rewrite the question. Remember, when you're dividing exponents with the same base, you subtract the exponents. So since the base is both x, you can go ahead and just subtract the exponents. That is x to the power of 2. In our second question, I want to simplify negative 6x to the power of 4 divided by 3x to the power of 2. Now, you'll notice that I've written this question in two different ways. One with a division sign and the other with a fraction. They mean exactly the same thing. So let's work with the fraction instead. So I have negative 6x to the power of 4 divided by 3x to the power of 2. First, let's take a look at the coefficients. I have a coefficient of negative 6 and I have a coefficient of positive 3. Since this is division, you need to ask yourself, what is negative 6 divided by 3? Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. Next, you are dividing exponents with the same base. So that has a base of x, that has a base of x. So when you're dividing exponents with the same base, you subtract the exponents. So I have x to the power of 4 minus 2. That simplifies to negative 2x to the power of 2. In our third example, we want to simplify 8x to the power of 7 divided by 4x to the power of 2. Let's begin by rewriting our question. First off, let's take a look at the coefficients of a coefficient of 8 and 4. We are dividing, so I have 8 divided by 4, which is 2. Next, you have x to the power of 7 divided by x to the power of 2. Remember, when you're dividing exponents with the same base, you subtract the exponents. They both have the same base, a base of x. So I have x to the power of 7 minus 2, which is equal to 2x to the power of 5. Now, in our fourth example, we want to simplify negative 8x to the power of 3 divided by 2x to the power of 2. Now, I've expressed this question with a division sign, and I've expressed it as a fraction. They mean exactly the same thing. So let's work with the fraction. Let's take a close look at the coefficients. I have a coefficient of negative 8 and I have a coefficient of positive 2. Since this is division, you're going to divide those two numbers. Negative 8 divided by positive 2 is negative 4. Next, you have x to the power of 3 divided by x to the power of 2. When you're dividing exponents with the same base, they both have a base of x, you subtract the exponents. So this would be x to the power of 3 subtract 2, which would be negative 4x to the power of 1. Now, you don't really need to write in the exponent of 1, so you can rewrite it as negative 4x. In the next set of examples, we're going to combine both the product and quotient rule. So in our first example, we want to simplify x to the power of 2 multiplied by x to the power of 3 divided by x to the power of 3. Let's rewrite the question. So let's first work in the denominator. So I am multiplying exponents with the same base. Therefore, all I need to do is add the exponents. So this is x to the power of 2 plus 3 over x to the power of 3. So let's go ahead and simplify some of these. That turns out to be x to the power of 5 over x to the power of 3. Now, when you're dividing exponents with the same base, a base of x, you subtract the exponents. So that actually becomes x to the power of 5 subtract 3. And that simplifies to x to the power of 2. So the answer here is x to the power of 2 once we've simplified everything. In our second example, we want to simplify negative 2x to the power of 3 multiplied by 4x to the power of 2 divided by negative 4x to the power of 3. So let's begin by rewriting our question. I'm going to begin in the denominator. So let's first take a look at what I have in the denominator. Here I have two coefficients, -2 and +4, and I'm multiplying them. So -2 multiplied by +4 is -8. Next, you want to take a look at the x to the power of 3 multiplying x to the power of 2. Remember, when you multiply exponents with the same base, you add the exponent. So that becomes x to the power of 3 plus 2. The bottom stays exactly the same. Let's go ahead and simplify some of this. So 3 plus 2 is 5. All right, so we're going to repeat the process. Over here, I have a coefficient of -8 and I have a coefficient of -4. I'm dividing these numbers. So -8 divided by -4 is +2. I'm not going to write in the positive sign, however. Next, I have x to the power of 5 divided by x to the power of 3. When you're dividing exponents with the same base, you subtract the exponents. So that becomes x to the power of 5 minus 3. And that just simplifies to 2x to the power of 2. And there you go. These are questions that involve both the quotient and product rule.